I'm now here at Hilton, Manila to meet some of the children who undergo liver transplant at Indraprastha Apollo Hospital in India. The group medical director and senior pediatric gastroenterologist of the Apollo Hospital group. While waiting for the interview, na-meet ko yung ibang mga bata at nakakatuwa na makita sila ngayon malulusog after the operation. Must come for Dr. Sibal to meet us.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Anupam Sibal. I am the Group Medical Director of the Apollo Hospitals Group, India's largest healthcare provider. And I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist and I work at Apollo Hospital, Delhi. Today is a very special day for us because we are celebrating 100 pediatric liver transplants in children from Philippines. This includes transplants that we've been able to do despite COVID, despite the restrictions in travel in the last 2.5 years since COVID struck. We've done 53 transplants in Filipino children, and overall the number is 100 in the last 4 years. And we are here to celebrate this landmark. We are here to interact with the families. We have the children who've been transplanted do a fashion show. They're going to sing, they're going to dance. And the idea really is to convey this message that after a liver transplant, you can lead a normal life. You know, if you're starting play school and nursery, you can do that. If you're going to junior school or middle school, you can do that. So of these 100 children that we've transplanted now, 44 of them have been girls and 56 have been boys. In 65% the donors are mothers, 30% the donor are dads, and 5% are other relatives like aunts and uncles. The youngest we transplanted is 8 months old, the oldest 15 years old, but the median age is 12 months, and the littlest is 3.5 kilos, so really tiny. And we performed India's first successful liver transplant way back in November '98 in a 20-month-old baby, and that baby grew up to go to high school, went to medical school, has become a doctor, and now works as a doctor himself 23 years later. So if a liver transplant is needed because you have liver failure or liver cancer, then a liver transplant is life-saving and it allows you to get back to a normal quality of life. There have been many questions: will children grow normally after a liver transplant? And the answer is yes. What will the success rate be? Well, it's at about 10 years, it's close to 90%. What about girls? Will they go through development normally? Will they be able to go and have babies when they get married later? And the answer to that is yes. So a liver transplant is really a life-saving intervention. And when you need a liver transplant because there is no other option, it really changes lives, not just for the child but for the family as well. And you're going to see examples of that today. We are very grateful for the trust of the Filipino families that have trusted us with the care of their loved one, and we hope to live up to that trust, to live up to that faith that they have shown in us, and we hope to be able to serve more and more children from Philippines. And I have to say that having transplanted patients from 50 countries, including 20 countries as far as children goes, what we see in the Filipino population is really beautiful. We see this culture of paying it forward. We see the church coming forward. We see everyone supporting each other. So if a family is has a child who's been diagnosed with with liver failure, they will help 2 more children, and those 2 will help 2 more. So this pay it forward culture, this spirit of not giving up, this spirit of coming together as a community, the spirit of forming a social network, and when one family is given the diagnosis, they automatically connect with other support group families, and they stand up for each other, have their back, and I think that is very beautiful, and that gives us a lot of motivation to do more. And I'm so happy that we're here today, and I look forward to get more and more smiles back on not just the faces of children, but also their parents and their grandparents who've been so worried about this diagnosis of liver failure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sir, first question, how do you screen the patients, the children, if they're qualified for the
So,
operation?
that diagnosis is made here in Philippines. There's some excellent doctors who will say this child needs a liver transplant, and they will tell the family that, needs the transplant now, a few months down the road, a few weeks. Sometimes it's very urgent. So the specialist here will decide, make the diagnosis, and then tell the family, and then the family would reach through a support group, through their other families who've had a child with a transplant, reach out to us, and then we will then guide them through the steps. Many of them don't have a passport, so they need a passport, the donor assessment. The donor has to be blood group compatible, ideally, but even if they're not blood group compatible, we can do with incompatible blood group, but they have to be a blood relative, and they have to be fit. They should be less than the age of 60. They shouldn't have diabetes, shouldn't be overweight, shouldn't have any other medical problems, and should want to donate a part of their liver because they love the child. We take about 30% of the liver for younger children. For older children, we might take 60% of the liver. The liver is a unique organ that it regrows in about 12 weeks. So 90% of the liver we've taken would have regrown in 12 weeks, and that's really unique because that's the only organ that does that in the body.
With regards to the financial status of the family,
So the family, like I said, the spirit here of paying it forward is intense. So the families come together, and the church comes in. There are lots of foundations from within Philippines, outside Philippines. There's crowdfunding. Then everybody tries to get some financial help from wherever they can, and then they come in and get the transplant done. Yes, there are lots of foundations that are supporting, and it's because of the spirit really of not giving up.
with regards to the after operation treatment, how long does the child need?
So the child
Be
typically
monitored.
stays in hospital for about 3 weeks. So we get the child for about 2 weeks to 3 weeks, depending on the medical condition before, because you need government permission and all that. 3 weeks in hospital. Then we like to keep them for about 3 to 4 weeks in India, and then they come back here.
So how long is the process of the liver transplant?
So the transplant itself takes about 12 hours.
But the preparation.
So we can do it in 3 or 4 days also, but depending, because they've taken a long flight, they need to rest, we need to do some assessment. So typically we call them 2 to 3 weeks before the transplant, 3 weeks in hospital, 3 weeks after the transplant, then back to Philippines.
That's how fast.
Yes,
As long as all the documents are
that's
in
right.
place.
Yeah.
How did you do in this industry?
Well, we performed the first liver transplant in 1998, so it's 24 years. Yes. Sorry.
Do you have any target numbers of how?
This I believe is God's work, and we would hope that no child ever needs a liver transplant. We'd be the happiest if no family ever has to do a liver transplant, is not needed, because that would give us the greatest joy. It's such a big operation. Someone has to donate a part of their liver. It's a long operation. There's a risk of dying. There's a 10% risk that you will not make it. So, we would be really happy if no one ever needed a transplant. But the reality is that, 1 in 10 to 12,000 children are born with biliary atresia, which is the commonest condition. And for that, a transplant is needed. So, in the foreseeable future, there will always be babies who will need a liver transplant.
Yeah, I know you're pediatrics, but why focus on the liver?
Because that's my specialty.
Oh.
Yes, they're specialists in it.
How young, Doc? The youngest was like you mentioned
The
a while ago.
youngest we've done is like 6 months. But Filipino youngest is 8 months. But otherwise 6 months old. 3.5 kilos, you know, this 3.5 kilos.
So, sir, can you mention, just for the viewers, just in case they want to contact you, how will they contact you? Through what website or organization?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if anyone has any queries and they have any doubts, they have any questions, reach out to us at Apollo Hospital Delhi through the internet. Send us a mail at Apollo Hospital Delhi, and we'd be very happy to give you advice.